Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Unlock the Middle's Middle Marvel episode, where we recognize excellence in the classroom from around the country. My name is Dean Packard. I'm the principal of Charlton Middle School, and alongside of me, I have my good friend and co-host, Principal Chris Starcheski of Dudley Middle School in Dudley, Massachusetts. This never gets old, Chris. I love Middle Marvels because it's where the rubber hits the road with what we do every single day. Don't get me wrong. I love our flagship Sunday nights when we meet incredible authors and incredible individuals in the field of education. But there's something about Middle Marvels that brings it home for me. Listen, tonight we'll be streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We hope that you can chime in and tell us who you are and where you're watching from. And if you have any questions or comments while we talk with our guests tonight, please put them in the chat section and we will pull you up and we'll make sure we make you part of the show. Chris, how are you tonight? Sorry I'm so long-winded.
No problem. I'm used to it, brother. Hey, you know what? One of the big issues that I face every day is being able to get out into classrooms and be able to take the administrative hat off and put my teacher hat on. And what I see when I get into those classrooms is amazing educators in our building. And I know you've got the same in yours, and there are many out there in all middle schools. But Middle Marvels really brings it home because I get to see in my teachers what others from around the country do that sets them apart. And it really allows our teachers to be set apart from what the norm is.
And Chris, I'll tell you what, we're both married to middle level educators too, so it doesn't end. So regardless of whether we go in a classroom or come home, we continue with that conversation about what it all looks like. But you're absolutely correct because, you know, we get the best of both worlds and we have some amazing people in both of our schools. And when we combine that with some of the things that we see happening around the country, it just builds that middle level and it just adds flavor and it just gives depth to what we're trying to accomplish by recognizing what I would consider the heroes in the classrooms. And they are the teachers. They are the ones making a difference through this pandemic and every single day making a difference in lives for kids.
Man, 100% spot on. You know what, Dean? I want to bring Abby in here. I want to introduce her. I'd like you to bring her into the room, and let's go ahead and get down and dirty here.
All right, we're heading to Virginia, baby. Let's go. Start up the car. Did I say with a Boston accent? The car? All right, never mind.
You said the car. There you go.
Right, let's go.
So Abigail French is an accomplished presenter, an online instructional coach and mentor, educational course designer, and a 6th grade teacher at Peter Muhlenberg Middle School in Woodstock, Virginia. She's currently celebrating year 12 in her teaching career with the Shenandoah County Public Schools. In addition to teaching, Abby was selected as an ASCD Class of 2020 Emerging Leader. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Through her involvement as a board member with UnisonEDU, a nonprofit organization, Abby works to provide equitable professional development to schools. She also advocates for public education and better working conditions for teachers. Thank you. And students as an officer with the Shenandoah County Education Association. Outside of school, Abby enjoys spending as much time as possible with her family, preferably outdoors, enjoying the wonderful Shenandoah community. How are you, Abby, and welcome?
Thank you, guys. It is such an honor to be here with you all tonight. I mean, I've started watching your show when some of my favorite people were asked to be on it, and I found out about you guys, and I love that you have a show honoring middle school education and educators. That's awesome.
Honestly,
It's
Kelly,
super special.
Yeah, it is. And it hits the core of what we do. And I kind of smile every time I say a name because I do have an Abby at home. And I don't get a chance to say it. Yeah. Well, she's out of the house now. But when I say that, it just kind of reflects back for me, nevertheless. Mm-hmm. So we see Kelly. Kelly came on to say hi to you tonight. And so did Bonnie. A couple of
my sisters.
The Edu sisters. Absolutely. Welcome. Okay. All great stuff. So, Abby, do me a favor. Tell us a little bit about your journey, where you're from, just how you got started in education.
Well, I think that I know this was kind of the case for many, many people, but my own experience in education as a student on the student side wasn't great. And it was pretty painful up until about late middle school. I didn't know I had a learning disability until it was identified in about 6th grade. And it just was very fortuitous that my little district, our rural district in Virginia, somehow hired the most amazing special ed teacher that had just graduated from UVA. And she was on a mission to, I mean, this is back like in 81, to not only educate her students, but also the school communities about, special ed accommodations and law and what it really means. And so I had the tremendous benefit of a teacher who came into my life and absolutely turned it around, but not without a lot of rough moments. Accepting that I had a learning disability, learning how to overcome it, accommodations, all that. But in late high school, I did that. I was kind of moved out of the program and went to college, kind of with this idea that my college essay was turning stumbling blocks into stepping stones. So I knew the benefit of having a teacher, or the power of inserting the right person at the right time in a young person's life. And I really wanted to bring that and a chance to do that. So that's kind of where my journey started.
That's awesome, Abby. As I sit back and listen, I've referenced this in a few other shows. I started out my educational career at a school for learning disabled students called Eagle Hill School in Hardwick, Mass. And one of our tags as a school and our belief systems and our core values was signified by disabilities, but the dis was in parentheses. And we really focused on abilities and learning abilities and how they could use their strengths to move forward, not overcome the adversity in front of them, but how they could really capitalize on what they brought to the table. So kudos to you for bringing that up, and kudos to that special ed teacher for really bringing out the light in you, because that's amazing. And that influence is going to carry you forward with your kids here without a doubt. So you've overcome some adversity in your life. Yeah. But as an educator, what's been one of the most significant challenges that you've overcome in your educational career, and how have you been shaped by that or shifted by it?
Well, a couple things. I think that on one hand, you could talk about, and this is kind of the Education Association hat, the funding of public education, and how the underfunded school budgets, what that does over time to schools and resources, and even the building infrastructure, what that can mean like for kids over time, these spaces that we have them in for so many hours a day, and the ability to retain and hold on to quality teachers and attract new ones. I think those are huge issues in public education. And I think it all goes back to this funding structure that it currently exists under. But as a personal challenge for me, I would say that until about 4 years ago, I thought I wanted to be the best history teacher out there, like that I could possibly be. I wanted to be the best history teacher. And I, wanted somehow to get my kids to interact with and consume so much content so that they would be really good history students. And I had this experience after attending professional development, a conference, the Ed Leader 21 conference, where I got to hear Ted Dintersmith talk about his book and what school could be. And I got to hear just Tony Wagner. I got to hear the most amazing educators that lit my world literally on, not literally on fire, because I didn't go up in flames, but figuratively on fire, about 21st century learning, about 21st century skills, and student-centered learning. Yeah. And when I started going after that, to learn everything I could about it, and still learning, but project-based learning, passion projects, getting kids at the center, driving their journey. It's like I always say, I feel like my head and heart as an educator got synced. And I no longer want to be the best history teacher. I just want to be the best teacher, the best facilitator, the best supporter, tour guide, something like that, more, I guess, more or less.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
You use some buzzwords in there, facilitator, student-centered learner. That's huge. I was a history teacher for 12 years before getting into administration. I remember when History Alive came on, and I remember changing the way that I drove the content to the kids, to make it interactive notebooks, making the content real to individual students. Huge shift. That hasn't changed, okay? We're all facilitators, regardless of whether we're leaders or we're in a classroom or whatever the case might be. Talk to me for a second about a lesson over the 12 years that you've been in the trenches right now that has really resonated with you. And you said, man, I just knocked it out of the park. I had 20 kids leaving, clamoring for more. Talk to me about that.
Okay, I will. What I would say is a project that was kind of like this, it's something I'll always remember, is it was a geography project. I had my students create theme parks centered around the 8 geographic regions of North America, right? And so I put them into groups. It was a collaborative PBL. And they had to design a theme park, a mascot, a food truck, a physical build that represented the region that they had chosen to do after learning about the 8 regions. And this particular year, about 2 years ago, I decided I wasn't going to tell them it has to be, constructed out of like recyclable materials. I said, I don't care how you show it to me. If Legos are your thing, that's fine. If it's doing miniature stuff, that's fine. I really don't care. This is what you need to show me. Here's the requirements, and you guys go for it. And we did a lot of peer evaluation through the process, peer feedback. It was really good in that way. But what knocked it out of the park to me was that I had kids that came up to me, this team of boys, 6th grade boys, and they were like, Ms. French, could we do it in Minecraft or Fortnite?
Cool.
And I was pretty sure our district wasn't, like, the filter was not going to let that happen, like that app or whatever. Anyway, we figured it out. I said, yes, I'll ask later, but yes, you can. And for 2 weeks, this is literally for 2 weeks, I had a parent of one of those boys and that boy bring in a TV as a monitor, and they would hook their phone, and one of the parents let them bring the phone, and I got permission for the kid to have the phone, and they ran it all. They created this thing using a parent's phone and the TV that they brought in like every day for 2 weeks. And they created this incredible thing. And so that is a project, and there were all different kinds of groups submitted all different kinds of projects. It was nothing that was like, oh, here's the cookie cutter, I'm going to show you what it should look like in the end. I left it really wide open. I wasn't sure what we were going to get. And it was amazing. It was just amazing.
Nothing traditional about that. My gosh, way to break down walls. And connect with kids. Total student engagement. Yeah. I never had any, I don't really have a lot of management issues anyway, but that, brings me to the thing that I think I think that when we impart leadership and when we engage students and empower them, they're not going to misbehave. They're on task. They're engaged. It's just a whole different feel in a classroom.
That's, you know what, Abby, that is exactly what we are hoping educators will do. Not every day, because some folks have to stay in the box and be comfortable. But by adding those words to your thought process, why not? it takes things to a different level. I love a comment by Bonnie Nieves: ask for forgiveness, not permission, when it is in the student's best interest. I absolutely love that. I do it all the time, especially with our financial director in district. But one of the most important things is to really thump the drum of creativity and autonomy over learning, because that's where the engagement's going to happen. Autonomy and engagement brings me to think about real life. What are some of the real life lessons that you incorporate into your daily routine with your kids?
Well, I'm going to share it's so simple. It is absolutely, it is the simplest thing. Anybody can do it. And but the payoff is so incredibly huge. And it's a community building exercise that I do with my students called a rose and thorn. You've probably heard it. Wins and losses, smiles and frowns. Different people call it different things. I've just always stuck with rose and thorn. But from day one in 6th grade, my students know that we're going to be doing this, if not daily, a few times a week, where they have the opportunity to share something that is positive, that's the rose, or something that they are struggling with, and that's the thorn. And it's very quick. People can choose to pass. You don't have to participate. But what it does is it builds empathy. It builds a culture of connection. And when you're connected to the person sitting next to you, you learn things about them. You realize that you share common feelings, common experiences. You develop feeling and connection and community. And then how that translates academically is that incredible skill of collaboration that we need. And I try to do a design kind of thinking classroom. So like a PDSA cycle, plan, do, study, act. And there's a lot of feedback that's involved. And a lot of times students are giving that feedback because we teach them. We structure, scaffold how to give and receive quality types of feedback for improvement. Well, that can happen a lot more easily if you feel connected to the people that are giving you that feedback, or that you're giving it to, right? Empathy becomes a driving force. And it even goes deeper in the history classroom, because then you can start talking to students once they understand empathy personally.
Mm-hmm.
Then we can start talking about historical thinking, like historical empathy, being able to look at events in history and understand motive and people's behaviors and their actions. So it's all connected. And so that's a life lesson, a life daily practice that we do that really kind of infiltrates academics even.
That's absolutely brilliant. And thanks for going to the empathy perspective, because right now the world needs people who can be kind and who can work together and understand various perspectives. Thanks for bringing that out to the spotlight.
We've been through it, right? I mean, this past 2 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. My message for tomorrow for the kids is on kindness and empathy. Mm-hmm. So I give them the best 5 minutes of the day in homeroom with listening to me and my spiel about that. So it takes a village. There's no doubt about it. So, hey, let me take this. So 12 years in the classroom. Talk to me and talk to Chris about a teaching moment that has stayed with you. Something that can be as small as the connection with a child that that has propelled them to the next level, or a connection to a family, connection to something that you do that has really resonated with you.
Well, there have been a lot, but I think I'm gonna go with something that just happened right before. We've just been quarantined. My whole 6th grade team had to be quarantined, and I went to virtual learning. But right before we left, and we're in a hybrid mode, right? So I have online classes and I have Zoom. I have Zoomers and Roomers. And this was one of my Roomers. And this student is autistic. And because I'm not English or math, I don't have any extra support people in the room. It's just, and of course, since it's hybrid, everything's, much fewer students. But this student is always there on his day to be there, and he's always shows up in our, Zoom meetings as well. But the interaction verbally and in his work isn't as strong. And so on this particular day in the classroom, and you're masked and you're not really ever supposed to touch anything or give them, even exchange papers or anything, he was having trouble with getting from one place on his Chromebook in Schoology to another place. And so I was going over there, and I don't know if it's just my 50-year-old fingers or what, but every time I tried to finally I was just going to just tap the pad on his Chromebook and help him get to the spot. And every time I tried to touch it, it did nothing. It just did nothing. It was like it rejected my finger, and it just did nothing. And so finally, this student who is very limited on his ability to interact and connect and show, very flat, he goes lightly. And I'm like, oh, are you saying I'm touching this too hard? And he's like, lightly. And then he did it. So he does it. And of course it works beautifully. And I'm like, okay. So I do it again, still nothing. So finally, this moment that it was so sweet, and I don't even know if I'm going to be able to communicate it right. He grabs my finger and he does it so lightly, and it works perfectly. And he gets this huge grin on his face. And I probably had tears starting. There was way too much of an emotional response for him to even try to take in all at once. But it was the sweetest, most tender little moment between me and the student that hasn't happened in a year of, the interaction, the physical, being able to fist bump, elbow bump now, whatever. I miss those moments that are natural, we took for granted. And this was such a close little moment with this student. It meant everything to me. And I saw him later on in the hall, and we just started laughing. He laughed. I laughed. He laughed. And I don't know. It's the power of connection, right?
Very authentic, extremely authentic, and probably wouldn't have come out if it wasn't laid out the way it was with you. So that's fantastic.
It was a little win, right?
Magical moment.
It was.
Yeah. Abby, those are the things that we take for granted moments. And that's one of the reasons why we do this show, right?
Yeah.
Because I bet there are a lot of educators who are watching live now and who will be watching on replay later who sit there and say, gee, that happened to me. And you know what? It's special.
Yeah.
Enjoy
it.
It's big enough to make the show.
Yeah. But I guess my point, they don't realize how special all those little interactions are, and how they communicate with their nonverbal kids, or how they communicate with their behavioral kid, or how they communicate with their honors kid.
But it had nothing to do with content.
Yes. Oh, that's even better.
Reaction from a human being to human being, connection.
Totally authentic.
And my God, we always say relationships lead all the learning, and that connection leads the learning. So, like I said, magical moment. That's good stuff. We all don't take enough time to celebrate things like that. We really don't.
Now I feel like we have.
Bingo. And, so we celebrated a little bit of what's special. We talked a little bit about what has stuck with you, Abby. Let's talk about what most excites you about being a middle level educator.
Oh, I love middle school so much. I love the energy. I love the innocence. I love the sass. I love it. I love middle school. And I think the most exciting thing for me is to be able to, you guys should relate to this really well. You guys are in the business of amplifying other people. You guys are in the business. Your entire show is about highlighting and amplifying people to connect to their story and to share it so that we can keep building out connection, right? And what that does for someone, you asking me to be on this show, giving me that spot, that is such a huge compliment, and that's such a huge empowering kind of thing to do. It helps me connect more to who I am. It helps me think more about the type of teacher and person that I am. But that's what I want to do with every student in my classroom. I want to amplify them. I want to help them like know what their story is. And you said something at the beginning of this episode that I'm so glad I get to circle back to, because it's so important. And that is like students like recognizing their strengths and their talents, and not just where they need work, that we help children embrace, and we create a space that celebrates their unique traits, not as deficits, not as this or that labeled, but as part of who they are, and how those things can work to a person's advantage. My learning disability became my greatest asset. The thing that caused me so much pain and hardship in the first part of my schooling years ended up making me a successful college student and a very impassioned teacher. And I want to help students do that. I want to elevate who they are and help them connect to who they are. And middle school is a great place to start doing that before they head into high school, right?
Well, the greatest educators create safe places for kids to learn all the time, regardless of anything else. They make sure they feel that the child is valued. They make sure the child is in a place where they can take risks and they can be free from worry about what the risks will do. Because when you open up those parameters for kids, the learning takes off. It just goes. And I'm glad you made that reference point, because I think it's important for every educator, regardless of what level they're at, to understand that, because you want to empower, or use your words, amplify and sell what every kid can do. And if schools can do that, imagine the places they become. Think about it. Learning communities just take off.
I mean, culture is taken care of if that's the focus.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, Abby, let's talk about this one for a second. You got a new teacher coming in. What advice would you give to somebody? We know this pandemic and post-pandemic, and I hired some new people this year that I'm just going to set up a meeting with all of them. I think maybe next week or right before February vacation, just get into a breakout room with them and say, give it to me, okay? Tell me everything that you're working through. I need to do that to kind of decompress with them. But what would you tell somebody coming in to this business right now about how to be successful?
So one of the things I feel really privileged to do is I coach and mentor a group of new teachers, a cohort. And this is my third cohort doing so. But the thing that I want to, first of all, build in them is a confidence and a sense of purpose with them. I mean, but they find that's their purpose, that's their thing. But I want to help them connect to that. But I also want them to realize that classroom management has more to do with classroom leadership. And it's not just the leadership of the adult, it's imparting those leadership skills and opportunities to grow them with the students. And when students feel that, when they feel trusted, when they feel seen, when they feel valued, then there's not a lot of classroom management and that's not just fluff. That's real. That is a real thing. The more students are connected to owning their learning, the more they see themselves as leading, the more we help them develop leadership skills, the less you have to worry about in terms of behavior and management issues. And I think that there's a love of teaching that happens for the longevity piece for your new teachers. I'd also say to new teachers that it is, and this buzzword PLN, PLCs, those are so important, but they can exist like online and Twitter. I have the most amazing group of people that I am connected to on Twitter that have become such support systems. My Edgy Sisters, but a lot of other communities that I am a part of. And I would say that that it's not just on the principal, that it's not just on the one mentor, that you need to help connect your new teachers to communities where they can really feel connected and can be empowered to take on a lot of their own PD.
You know, Abby, you are spot on. And again, I'm calling out Bonnie. Students live up or down to the expectations we set for them, that Pygmalion effect. You know, we set that bar really high, and guess what? The kids think that they're supposed to get over it, even though the bar might supposed to be here. You know, and they strive for that. That's exciting. That's powerful. And I loved, you know, Dean, what I missed in Abby's comment was advice for new teachers. Be an expert in your content and only focus on teaching those standards. I didn't hear that at all. Kudos.
Yeah, right. We brought in the kids as part of the picture as well. What a
Kudos
concept.
to you.
I was talking to my wife tonight about, you know, I think every kid who's hired today should be go through a kindness test before they even get into the classroom.
Oh,
how are they going to be able to connect with kids? What are they going to be like? You know what I mean? In that classroom.
No, you're
behind
so
closed
right.
doors. If you don't have that, oh my gosh, the poor kids.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the whole kids don't care what you have to say until they know you care thing.
Love it.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely correct.
Put that in big letters across my forehead tomorrow morning. You know, but I think that, you know, we've got some amazing rock star educators in our business, and those are the folks who have drunk the Kool-Aid and really understand.
Josh gets this right there, Chris. That's from Josh.
Yeah.
Weekend, okay, we got it. Right.
Spot on. You know, Abby.
Yes, sir.
Clearly, you've been influenced by others to take your game to the level that it's at, and keep hungry for going there. Tell us about an educator in your life that's had the biggest influence on you and why. And if you can, just go ahead and shout the name out so we can get it out there into the community about why this person is amazing.
I have a couple, but Pam Moran, Dr. Moran, Pam Moran, she was a co-author on Timeless Learning. She was a superintendent in one of our districts in Albemarle. She's retired from that, but she is still one of the most involved, invested, progressive educators that's leading Virginia, leading the nation, even internationally. And she's to me is just the ideal. And I have had the great pleasure of getting to know her. I've done some curriculum writing work, performance task work. And so I've had a chance to actually work with her, but I would say to everyone, please go follow Pam Moran on Twitter or however. She's the most amazing educator, and I love it. She's a woman. Not only that, she was originally a field biologist, and she loves snakes too. And so she's my hero. She's my shero.
Oh, that's awesome. You know, as you sit back and look, what is the legacy of Pam Moran that's going to live on in your experience?
Oh my gosh, there's so much, but it's 21st century learning spaces. It's about truly never giving up that spirit of reimagining what education should and could be for students. And it's at any stage in your life, like if that's your passion, that you can be 70 years old and you can be as much a player in progressive education. Heck, I'm a 50-year-old emerging leader, right? Like let's redefine things and let's go after the different things you're passionate about at any age, at any time, and be a part of things. And I think she is an incredible elevator of people. She just is amazing, and she's creating new things all the time. And like I said, a tremendous leader.
Abby, impromptu. Here we go.
Oh gosh.
You've got
Okay.
12 years in the classroom. 10 years down the road, you're going to be a 60-year-old emerging leader in the classroom. What do you hope for education? Where do you think education is going to be? I want you to project right now. How much change are we going to have over the next 10 years?
Oh gosh, I'm a realist too. Sorry.
Public funding is going to slow you down. Funding won't slow down creativity. I'm telling you.
I think that we are going to hopefully see progressive things like moving away from the standardized test hold on things, moving away from traditional grading practices and moving into things like proficiency-based reporting or standards reporting, but really getting back to how does learning happen? And learning doesn't happen on a given due date at a given moment because you told them to. It happens when people are curious and when they can explore and when they can play. That's when learning happens.
The whole child, growth of the whole child. Okay.
Yep.
Never mind a test score in math and ELA. Okay.
This is another great book on that kind of thing that I'm talking about. Okay. And so that's what I hope education looks like. I hope it looks like a partnership between schools, classrooms, and community. And I hope that there is not just a connection for one project or whatever, but that we are more integrated. And going back to the funding thing, I think there has to be real reform when it comes to how we fund, how we pay salaries to educators, how we fund classrooms and resources. And I just don't think it can be connected to property taxes as your only means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, it's a powerful message, and I'm not going to get into the political side of things, but I don't disagree with you at all. You know, we're asking our educators to, in some ways, all right, maybe I will get a little political. All right, so we've got our COVID pandemic that we're dealing with right now, and every state is rolling out vaccination schedules on a different time schedule, and educators seem to keep getting bumped down on the list. You know what? We need schools open. We agree. We want schools open. We agree. We want it safe for educators. We agree. Give us the tools that we need to ensure the safety. Give us the funding to provide us everything that we need, including those vaccinations for our educators. So that way we can have mental health capacity to feel comfortable in those classrooms.
That's what I don't think that a lot of people understand is the toll. And I think principals, you guys are in a really, and I think, my heart lies with teachers, and I bet yours does too. Yeah. Who are the ones that are facilitating all of these plans that are not teachers' plans, they're other people's plans, right? And it's very scary at this time. Yep. But for principals to have to carry out certain things too, when you don't feel that they are in the safest, we should be on the first line of, or phase B or whatever, 1B, getting those vaccines rolled out as soon as possible so teachers and schools can feel safe mentally and physically to be in that space.
And can be open. And then parents can go back to work and they can have resume normalcy. How does that affect the overall economy? It's to me,
it's all connected.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a no-brainer. So
well, you know what, Abby, we are coming up on the end. I just have one last comment just about your influential educator in life, Pam Moran. Yeah. Well, I have not met her. I did do a little bit of work in a workshop with Ira Sokol, one of the co-authors.
One of my favorite people.
You know what? And he had some very influential advice for us and gave some very powerful examples about reimagining and rethinking education. Yeah. And his message, really paralleled Sir Ken Robinson's messages about school stymie and creativity, and we have to reimagine and think about where we're at and where we want to be. So
Ira is a huge person in I would say his name is right there. Yeah.
Awesome. So you're in an amazing circle. Everybody out there in Unlock the Middle Land, this is Abigail French, Middle Marvel number 29 out of Virginia. Be sure to hook up with her at AWFrench1 on Twitter. Follow her, learn from her, be better with her. We are all great because of others like you, Abby. Thanks for taking our game to the next level.
Yeah,
Hey.
it was a great night. We appreciate your time tonight. Again, Chris and I get better every evening we do this, so it's a win-win.
You guys
Yeah.
are awesome. Keep doing what you're doing.
Right.
Thank you. Well, hey, everybody, be well, be better, be safe, be stronger, and just keep on chugging. We are out of here tonight. Have a great evening.
Bye, guys.